All right, so we are at our last lesson of this chapter, lesson 5, winning the independence. So we know that we've declared independence. We have all these battles going on because the British do not want to let go of the control of the colonies. So now we are going to find out how we finally win independence. Okay? As the year 1777 ended, America was still at war. Although the Patriot forces had won some important victories against the British, they still faced many obstacles. The path to independence looked uncertain. A turning point in the war. When the British forced Washington and his troops out of Philadelphia, they retreated to Valley Forge outside of the city. Washington planned to prepare his troops for more battles in the spring, but they were discouraged, exhausted, and not properly trained. The Patriots had recently lost the Battle of Brandywine and the Battle of Germantown. The harsh winter would bring morale to a new low. The conditions at Valley Forge that winter were terrible. There were not enough shelters. The troops did not have enough food or warm clothes. Many soldiers died of disease. Washington lost about 2,000 men that winter. The tide slowly began to turn as Washington worked with Benjamin Franklin to provide adequate food supplies and troops. Then Franklin enlisted the help of Baron Frederick von Steuben. Baron von Steuben had been a military officer in the Prussian army. He began training the Continental Army and gave the troops a sense of pride and confidence. Morale was further boosted when Washington learned that the French had agreed to join the war on the side of the Americans. This was a crucial turning point. News of the revitalized unit at Valley Forge inspired Continental Army troops throughout the states. So our first reading checkpoint says, analyze why American troops regained their confidence by the spring of 1778. Summarize what led to this improvement. So what did they end up receiving? Okay, if we went back, they worked with Benjamin Franklin, and they provided adequate food. Sorry, my pen didn't work. Adequate food, supplies, and troops. And who was now going to help them? There's a specific sentence in here, okay, that says it was a turning point and that morale went up. So if we're looking, we already know that morale was further boosted when Washington learned that the French had agreed to join the war on the side of the Americans. So this was going to help them, okay? So we can say that they received food and supplies they were better trained, and now what was going to happen? The French were going to help. Okay, so they received food and supplies, they were better trained, and the French were going to help them. So that is why they regained that confidence that they're going to need for this final kind of push. Okay, all right. Marching toward victory. Beginning in 1776, Spain began spending money and military supplies sending money and military supplies to America. Support from Spain during the American Revolution was due in part to its desire to see Great Britain lose its power. The Spanish wanted to recover some of the land that they had lost to the British. In 1779 and 1780, the Spanish governor of Louisiana, Bernardo de Galvez, attacked British forts at Baton Rouge, Mobile, Natchez, and Pensacola. Spain took these forts and stopped the British from reaching the Mississippi River. Although Southern loyalists had helped the British win battles in Savannah, Georgia, and Charleston, South Carolina in 1778 and 1780, the British overestimated their support. Many Southerners were patriots, including Francis Marion. Marion earned the name Swamp Fox for leading his small band in quick attacks on the British. After the attacks, the men retreated into the swamps. In the South, General Nathanael Greene did not have enough troops, so he attacked and quickly retreated again and again until he wore out the British. The final battles. In June 1778, British General Sir Henry Clinton and his men left Philadelphia. They marched toward New York City. Washington and his newly trained army left Valley Forge and met the British at Monmouth, New Jersey. American General Charles Lee learned that British reinforcements were coming. He ordered a retreat. Washington was furious. He could not recognize American ranks in time to take the British. Clinton continued toward New York, but Washington joined the other American forces along the Hudson River. Between 1780 and 1781, several battles were fought in North and South Carolina. The British had seized control of Savannah, Charleston, and Camden in 1778 and 1780. These battles were followed by 2 American victories at Kings Mountain and Cowspen. The news of these battles shook British General Charles Cornwallis, who waited for reinforcements. The battles of Guilford Courthouse and Etowah Springs ended in victories for the British, but many British troops were killed. British General Charles Cornwallis abandoned the Carolinas and moved his troops back to Virginia to rest. He then went to Yorktown, Virginia, which is on a peninsula, a piece of land almost surrounded by water, but still attached to the mainland. Washington left New York with American and French soldiers. He planned to arrive in Yorktown at the same time as the French Navy. Washington asked General Lafayette to lead an army of 4,500 soldiers to block Cornwallis's escape from Yorktown. Washington's troops needed food, clothing, and supplies. He asked Haman Solomon, a Jewish immigrant from Poland, for money. Solomon was a patriot who was arrested by the British twice but managed to escape. Solomon, now called the financial hero of the American Revolution, provided vital supplies for Washington's troops before the Battle of Yorktown. By the late September, Washington arrived in Yorktown. While his army attacked the British on land, French Navy ships sailed into Chesapeake Bay and blocked British ships from rescuing Cornwallis. He was trapped. After 3 weeks of battle on October 17, 1781, Cornwallis surrendered to Washington in a field at Yorktown. This was the last major battle of the American Revolution. So, if you have someone around, you can turn and talk to them. Identify and list the groups and people who fought on the side of the Americans and on the side of the British. So, if there's no one around that you can talk to, right up here you have a nice blank space that you can jot that right down. Okay? One last page. The war comes to an end. The United States won the American Revolution against the mighty British Army. In 1782, Benjamin Franklin, John Adams, John Jay, and British officials negotiated the Treaty of Paris, a peace treaty. Primary source. His Britannic Majesty acknowledges the said United States to be free, sovereign, and independent states, that he treats with them as such, and for himself, his heirs, children, and successors, relinquishes, or gives up, all claims to the government, propriety and terrestrial rights of the same and every part thereof. And that is from the Treaty of Paris, 1783. So the treaty stated that America was an independent nation. It allowed for westward expansion. The borders for the new nation were agreed upon. The United States now reached from Canada to Spanish Florida and as far west as the Mississippi River. Okay, so the war has come to an end. They negotiate a treaty. Okay, so our third checkpoint says, make inferences about why Franklin, Adams, and Jay included a mention of westward expansion in the Treaty of Paris. So they wanted to do what? If they're expanding, okay, the expansion, they're going to want to claim more land in the future, okay? So what they might have wanted, to do was they wanted to claim more land in the future. Okay, so they wanted to claim more land in the future because now they are independent states, But what have we learned throughout social studies? Everybody wants to expand. They want more land. More land means more power. All right. Our lesson 5 checkpoint, cause and effect. So they've been giving us the causes. We had to fill in the effect. Now they gave the effect that they wore out the British. Now it says, write the causes that led to the effect in the chart. Analyze the outcome of the battles fought in the South between 1778 and 1780. Explain their effect on the outcome of the war. Okay, so you're going to list the causes, and the outcome is they wore out the British. So what were they doing during that time? What were the battles? What were the things that we just read about? Okay, it's a very short lesson. It should be easy for you to go back and find. Analyze the events leading up to the surrender at Yorktown. Describe regrets that Cornwallis might have had. So what might he have not, wanted to do, not liked what he had already done, okay? And 6, describe how you think George Washington felt about the American Revolution and the outcome of the war. So what do you think? How would he have felt about the outcome of this war and the continuation of what we know now as the United States? Okay, what would he have felt during that time? All right, so that wraps it up for chapter 5. When we return to school, we'll move on to chapter 6 in our new series here, and we will see what else is in store for the United States. Please remember to email in these lesson checks, okay? Those will be graded before you return. All right, see you later.